Welcome back. It's Emily again, and I'm back with another episode from the blog. This one is from May 7th, 2025, and it's called Range. The title is in reference to the book of the same name by David Epstein. It says Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. And this is kind of subversive sometimes, I think, especially in the world of classical music, which is kind of, even though I do all kinds of music, I still feel like I come from classical training. And that definitely borks your brain in a very specific kind of way. So it's nice to sometimes read something that pushes against some of the limiting things that you kind of get shoved down your throat at the conservatory. So here we go. One of my favorite podcasts is If Books Could Kill, where the two hosts take a critical, good faith look at the pop sci books that take the zeitgeist by storm every few years. Examples of this include Outliers, The Secret, Blink, Nudge, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. By the way, if you're going to listen to one episode, I might start with like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It is extremely funny and also just sort of like a great example of the way they do takedowns of books like this. So they're definitely like, funny guys like heckling from the peanut gallery, but they're also people who have robust instincts for research and like determining like causation versus correlation, things like that. Anyway, just Rich Dad, Poor Dad, incredibly funny. All right. So, what these books frequently have in common is a failure to successfully parse correlation from causation, mostly because they're written by lay people interested in novelty rather than methodology. It would be delightful if the secret to, say, success on an instrument was only about logging those fabled 10,000 hours, or if dedicated meditation about an important goal brought that goal to fruition. But both of these reflect correlations. So, folks who have the time to do 10,000 hours of practice are very likely doing all kinds of other things that contribute to proficiency, including simply being the kind of maniac who is so hell-bent on improvement that they would do nearly anything to get there. But I have seen, even in my own studio, people get close to 10,000 hours and just be miles away from anything even close to resembling mastery. I also know the sort of person who meditates on an outcome with intensity and purpose is likely taking other steps to make that happen. Sometimes those steps are unconscious, sure. And I'm not one to reject like the universe and energy and vibes and all that good stuff. I'm as new agey and spiritual as they come. But I'm also a junkie for data and kind of repeatable long-term research outcomes. So a few of these airport books kind of they really don't take that much time to wade into long-term research, right? Most people are like, "Oh, I read this study and that's very exciting to me." And I, as a well-educated but still layperson, I'm gonna like see if I can make other people get excited about it in the same way that I do. It is laudable in one way, but there's just like we need some fact checking. And also, it would be nice if some of these books that were published 20 years ago that people are still kind of stepping up to the plate as like, look, this is a new way to do things. 20, 25 years later, we actually have enough information. We can point back and actually look and see that these things are actually not the results of the things we thought they were. Anyway, I'm reading the following four books that seem like they might have some insight into the way psychology intersects with practice and performance. So those are Range, Subtract, How We Are, and Mindset. On the blog itself, I have links to all four of those. I will put these links in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast or in the video notes if you're watching this on YouTube. So the one I'm engrossed in now is Range. I'm only halfway through, and note to listeners and viewers, I am still only halfway through. I kind of got going on something else. I will come back to it, but there was actually so much there that Halfway through is actually not so bad. It gives me some time to think. But the premise is that excessive specialization tends to be more of a hindrance than one would expect. He starts out with the parallel lives of Tiger Woods and Roger Federer. Tiger famously started fooling around with a golf club as an infant, and then by about age 3 was already better than most of us will ever get. His life was completely shaped by his skill and his parents' desire to sequester him from anything that might distract from it. Federer, on the other hand, was involved in and excited about all kinds of sports dancing, tennis, soccer, aka football, as well as having some pretty like steep academic interests as well. These disparate elements inform each other while also helping a young person see that life is huge and varied and that success or failure at this one thing isn't all there is. Learning over and over how to take the enthusiasm endemic to beginners and turn it into long-term motivation, that's the real skill. The other piece I want you to consider, it seems that discipline born of having fun with the practice cultivates a more resilient kind of relationship to whatever is being worked on. It's been said a million times in a bunch of ways, but the idea is that you have to be okay with the journey. The overarching tide of forward progress is the goal in terms of months and years, but you need to find a way to love what you're doing while you're doing it. Otherwise, you thread together a kind of string of lies and misconceptions about like the kind of person who succeeds at this thing and why you're just not one of them. So I'll leave you with this. And this is like, I'm just like kind of reading this extemporaneously, like I didn't go back and read the whole thing. So we will see what I've written here. I'll leave you with this. Today, 7 May 2025, I practiced about 90 minutes between lessons. Oh, that's right. This was Paganini times. I'm back in Paganini times, by the way. It's always Paganini times around here because that 24th caprice, whew, it's killing me, but I want it. So mostly I was doing detail work on the Paganini 24th Caprice, the one with all the variations. I've been working on a particular arpeggio in the finale section for a little over a month. Some days I practice mostly that arpeggio, bending it a bunch of different ways. By the way, I'll just elaborate here. When I say bending it a bunch of ways, it means that I will change the rhythms, the bowings, I will run it from top to bottom instead of bottom to top. Sometimes I will do it with one finger just to like measure the distance of the shifts in a slightly varied way. I'll start in the middle of it. Basically, I try to expose myself to all of the ways it can start to feel foreign and impossible in your hands. And you know this feeling like when you go into your lesson and you just get that queasy, like, oh, I'm not going to do as well as I did like 40 minutes ago at home feeling. It's part of the human experience. It's not just you. But what I try to do is actually like bend a piece kind of so far out of shape that I can actually encounter that feeling that, oh my God, I'm really not prepared to do this. I want to find that in my practice. If I find it in my practice, it is not going to find me on stage or in my lesson. I could still get my butt kicked a bunch of different ways, but I'm just saying like that weird kind of unfamiliarity. Oh no, I'm on the wrong bow and I can't do this run because it feels a particular way on a down bow, for instance. I just try to like erase all that possibility. I'm just going to practice it every possible way because I have found new and exciting ways to screw up in in public when it matters. Um, so some days I mostly practice like that arpeggio, bending it a whole bunch of ways. Variety is essential to create more adversity than the passage actually presents. And it sounds good about 2% of the time. The rest of the time, there are bobbles, scratches, pitchy notes, and the occasional brain fart, but I love it, all of it. Because practicing something that is kind of eating my lunch means I'm getting better at it. It means I'm clearing out a new technical blind spot and not running away from something just because it's difficult. Doing things the right way, the more time consuming and thorough way, guarantees that I will improve. I will improve at the passage and I will be a better cellist for it. So, like, to me, there's just no downside of tangling with something that's eating my lunch like that. And by the way, the arpeggio is better. It's not, it's actually not really all the way there. I have to play it very, very slow if I want all the notes to show up right. When I play it at full speed, the notes show up the way I want them to sound about a fifth of the time. That's just not good enough. It's not ready for showtime, so I'm just going to keep it slow. So instead of being sad that, like, once again, a piece of music is not instantly easy and beautiful as soon as I learn the notes, I relish the process. It is a wonderful way to spend an afternoon or a life, in my case. If you can't find a way to fall in love with the thing we spend 90% of our time doing, put the thing down and don't look back. And I said that and I mean it. There's a little asterisk here, so I'm going to go down and just read the asterisk because that was a very provocative thing I just said, right? If this seems overly extreme or confronting, this means that this post is especially for you. There is something really sensitive this post touches on, and it's worth considering if your passion is not built on something sustainable or the idea, if the idea of walking away is actually unthinkable. Just like fear and anger feel remarkably similar in the body, so too do relief and calm focus. I am an anti-snob and I want more people doing this, and I do not believe any of the nonsense ivory tower orthodoxy so much of string culture seems to thrive on. I would never advocate for somebody who is making slow progress to quit. Slow is fine. The question to ask is, am I willing to examine why I'm doing this? What it means to me if I'm not perfect? What it means if I walk away? Is it lesson anxiety, or do you actually hate your lessons? Is it a plateau, or does your brain shut off during practice? Do you feel bad about yourself when someone else succeeds, or are you able to be excited for them? Don't be afraid to ask these questions. I've had to ask them numerous times. I took 2 months off of lessons against my parents' wishes, and it was the very best thing ever for my relationship with the cello. So I'm just saying that. Okay, let's go back up and finish the shebang here. So I just said, put the thing down and don't look back if you just cannot find a way, because you should be doing basically 90% of your time at the instrument, should be practicing. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. Just you really need to like get after your practice much more than most of us think. It's not because you're not meant to be a musician or you don't have like what it takes. It's because the fantasy has to stop at some point and you should find something you actually do love because life is short. It should feel freeing to set it down. And if it doesn't feel freeing when you set your instrument down, that means you're ready to figure out a better way to practice. So either way, it should feel like relief. Relief that you can finally put the damn thing down and do something that makes you happy. Or you can put down the way you've been practicing and relating to the instrument, and you can consider something new. If you feel like you don't have somebody to talk about this with, it's me. I would love to talk about you on a Zoom call, on email. We could do a video reaction kind of thing. I can respond on social media. I would love, love, love to help more people structure their practice in a productive way that helps them feel attached to the instrument and that they are making a sane choice. So yeah, it should feel freeing either way. So what's cool is that in either option, right, we're back to the main lesson of range. Time spent trying nearly anything is valuable if you come away with information about it, yourself, or both. And then I wrote, keep an eye on the podcast. I'll be talking about range there too. So I think what I'm going to do is my next one of these is going to be a more traditional podcast type recording. And I think I'll just go through the chapters and just kind of talk about what I've extracted from each. And specifically, it's meant to bolster everybody out there who has lived a life where they aren't doing music full time. And for some reason, that makes them feel that they're not a real musician. I've had to deal with this kind of stuff myself. Even though most of my writing has been in the sphere of music, I remember just kind of feeling bad somehow that I was teaching English at the college level. And I remember kind of people, now that I know myself better, who knows? I feel like I was going to say people who reacted like, oh, really? You do these two things? And it could be that people did react poorly, but I'm learning about myself. is that I'm so sensitive about certain things that I will find a way to contort what people have said to me in the past so that it like hurts me the very most. It's something I'm just like so funny. I'm 48 and I'm like just like kind of really learning what that means and what it looks like in my life. Anyway, but I do remember getting the distinct impression that certainly in LA, I was taught if you need to work a day job, then you are not really a musician. And then I worked a day job at a music retail shop where every single person was doing multiple gigs. And by the way, every single person in there was awfully good at all of them. So in the end, people like us, we're not dilettantes. You're not a dilettante, and you're not unserious about music because you had to be serious about living a life that actually had a paycheck, right? Music is an incredibly risky kind of thing to do as a profession. I mean, as part of the reason I did a lot of teaching at the beginning is that just like, gigs were just feast and famine. And then as it turns out, I really love teaching. So it is good. But there's nothing wrong with you if you've lived your life as a doctor, librarian, data scientist, whatever it is. You can be a very serious musician. I'm a very serious musician, and I also studied viticulture and enology. I love, right, airplanes. I'm interested in any number of things. I love learning languages. And none of you would look at me, or none of you who have hearts would look at me and say, "You're not really a musician because you like these other things." Absolutely not. So don't do that to yourself. And it is absolutely the case that things that I learned in hockey have helped me in music, and things that I've learned in music have helped me in literature, and things that have helped me in literature have also helped me in hockey and viticulture and all. It's incredible. So the fact that you've done a lot of stuff isn't the problem. That is not the problem. All right, that's the end of this little mini episode. I will see you next time for a more thorough discussion of range.